I will actually show a whole bunch of proofs for a globe. This first one is one that we've all seen, ships going over the horizon. Perfect explanation with the globe. The bottom of that ship is hidden beyond the horizon because the Earth, or the sea in this case, is curving down away from you. Likewise with this one, there's no way perspective can explain that. The hiding of the hull and yet still showing the masts and even the rigging. It doesn't work with perspective. That cannot explain it. And once again, another container ship. The entire very large container ship is hidden, but the smaller containers aren't. We can explain that with a globe. You can't explain that with another shape. I'm having to stop myself from saying flat Earth because
every single glober here claims the Earth curvature is not the horizon.
Everyone claims that the horizon is the actual physical thing that we see.
we can measure the curve of the horizon. Here's a couple of images from MC Toon's excellent website, mctoon.net. This guy, because I don't think this was Toon that did it, has got 4 straight edges leveled up with each other with a gap in between them. He then lines them up with the horizon and takes a photo, so you can see the horizon of the ocean between those levels. And then when you look and squeeze the image left to right, compress it, straight edges remain straight, but the horizon shows a curve. Old favourite, Lake Pontchartrain. You can see the power mast getting shorter, apparently shorter, as they are further away from you due to perspective, but you can also see that they are dropping top and bottom around the curve. Again, perfect explanation with the globe, with the ocean following the curve of the Earth. No explanation otherwise given by any other belief. We can show that water is curved. This is a tow tank at Southampton University, used for testing models of ships. They put waves along the machine and so on. What you can see is the gantry, which tows the model of the ship. It runs on the rails. You can see one on each side of the tank. Now, that gantry must remain perfectly the same distance above the surface of the water along the entire length of the tank, in this case 138 metres. Otherwise, it's pushing the model in or pulling it out of the water. Those rails are adjustable. They're adjustable so that they're the same height above the surface of the water. Along that 138 metres, there's a curve. The sagitta, the hump, if you like, is 0.6 millimetres. 0.6 millimetres. So
I was just pointing out that the problem is that all the flat earthers spout these things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water, blah, blah, blah.
the sagitta, the hump, if you like.
Rather than just listening to flat earthers parrot things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water in the way, because
the sagitta, the hump, if you like. Sunsets. That is the go-to and most easy thing to witness, to evidence that something is hiding at the bottom of the sun. Because if you have a circle that goes further and further away, it gets smaller in all directions, left, right, top to bottom. But in this case, the bottom disappears behind the curve. eclipses. We've got the explanation with the moon orbiting around the Earth, Earth orbiting around the sun, the moon gets in between. So we get an eclipse. We get the shadow. We see the shadow of the moon falls on the Earth. The same with lunar eclipses. And even better, we can actually see the curve of the shadow of yeah, 1946, a V2 rocket was sent up from White Sands in the US. This was the first image of the Earth from space. There was no CGI. There was no Photoshop. What I want to show next is a very short clip of film. Where are we? 1 second. Very short clip of film. Here we go. This was taken in 12th May 1959 from a Thor missile. It's shot with 16mm film. Again, no CGI, no Photoshop. That is physical film that was used to produce that imagery. This is an image of the sun. And it's not an ordinary image taken with photons, you know, with an ordinary camera. This was taken with neutrinos. As neutrinos were detected, it built up an image of the sun, which you might think, well, that's not a very good image. That was taken from about a kilometre underground. Neutrinos stream and pass through just about everything. You need a special detector. Those detectors are placed underground. So the neutrinos streaming from the sun, which is the vast source of neutrinos that we receive, pass through the ground, detected in the tank, and they built up that image over quite a number of days. Satellites. We've put up endless satellites. These are Starlink satellites. I've seen them myself. Absolutely astonishing thing to see a stream of lights going across the sky. And they were never, ever seen before the first launch of Starlink satellites. Satellites are up there. Satellite dishes pointing at the satellite TV broadcasters. Those ones are at the equator. They point directly upwards towards the plane where the satellites are orbiting. But at different parts of the Earth, your satellite dishes point at different angles to hit the same satellite, and that conforms to the surface of a sphere. Storm patterns, Coriolis, because of the rotation of the globe Earth, we get storms rotating one direction north of the equator, the other direction south of the equator. Perfect explanation with a globe Earth and Coriolis, globe Earth rotating with Coriolis. No explanation for any other shape of the Earth. Now, we do know that the ISS is real. And this is where I want to play a clip of film. This is my film. 1 second. If I can find the darn thing again. Here we go. This was the predictions from Heavens Above website of the ISS passing over my location. The entry we're interested in is 27th of March, maximum magnitude of minus 3.8, starting approximately 10 degrees above the horizon at 19:40 and 34 seconds. So this shows the predicted path, with the ISS starting at 19:40 in a few seconds where the yellow dot is, heading directly upwards, past the moon and past Venus. So let's see what we actually saw. Well, it's the 27th of March, 7 p.m. You might just be able to hear the clock going. Let's just stop the village clock. That's the moon, and directly above it is Venus. As I said, it's 7 o'clock now, and in about 38 minutes, the ISS is going to rise, and it's going to be going virtually vertical past the moon and past Venus. We're at 7:23 now. My daughter's here. Well, you can barely see. My daughter's here, doing a test with her camera, and we've got the moon just there, and Venus just above. We've now got about 16 and a half minutes until the ISS comes up. Let's go show from there it is. I've got it on my camera as well. Oh.
Yeah, got it on mine now.
Yeah, just approaching the moon. About a flicker of the past some branches. That is the ISS going past the moon now. And it's headed up towards Venus. Fabulous. On an ordinary Samsung Galaxy phone. So all these idiot flat earthers that think it's a how could that have been predicted weeks in advance to within a few seconds?
They're talking live feed, and we have a astronaut go by us in the background, obviously trying to give it a more realistic, spacey, station busy effect. So that was the ISS. We've also, of course, been to the moon. Here's a photo of astronaut Buzz Aldrin on the moon, taken by Neil Armstrong at Tranquility Base. But they took photos of the Earth as well. We've all seen those. You might claim that they're fake, of course. But the interesting thing about this photo is his visor. In fact, that's the name of this photo, visor shot. There's a reflection in there. And some clever bod took that. He took a high-resolution copy of this image, and he unravelled that curved image. This was the view from Buzz Aldrin. You can see the eagle, you can see Neil, you can see the flag, and you can see the Earth above the flag. Now, that was not in any way faked, because back in those days, that photo, which was a real photo on real film, they would not have been able to pop that Earth on there. No one expected to be able to do that. That was there all the time, hidden information, if you like.
Has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. We didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up, and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
GPS. We all rely on GPS, whether it's for our phones or sat-navs or whatever. It works because of satellites broadcasting their location and time, and your GPS device calculating exactly where you are. Is MAGE. Now, MAGE was a project I had to send a balloon as high as I could with a non-distorting camera. Now, all cameras will have a certain amount of distortion, barrel distortion usually. As you can see across the middle of the image that you take, the distortion, if your line crosses the centre of the image, is not distorted, is what I'm saying. If you go higher or lower, left or right, you get more and more distortion. But across the middle, you don't get distortion. This is MAGE, sponsored by Bob the Science Guy, Arctic Haze, and Just Shoot Me. It had 3 cameras. One was a wide-angle camera pointing backwards just for the view. The second was an upward-pointing camera to look at the balloon, which was also wide. But the main camera, the one pointing towards the left, towards where those strings are, was a narrow-angle, non-distorting lens. Those strings, which are spring-loaded strings, appear in its field of view. So we can see if there's distortion. This is what MAGE imaged at 33.5 kilometres. You can see a curve of the Earth. But a little higher, 35.161 kilometres, with the horizon across the centre of the screen where there's no distortion, you can see the curve of the Earth. If you compress that image left to right, it accentuates it. Now, in fact, there is some slight distortion. If you look at the lower string, it's bowed down a bit, and the upper one has very, very slight distortion bowing up. But the horizon line is in between those, and yet it is much, much more curved. Can't happen if it's not a curved surface. Now, there were concerns about, did I fake it? So some clever bods suggested looking at satellite imagery. This was a wide-angle lens from Mage. You can see towards the horizon line, so forget the fact it's curved, because this is a wide-angle lens, but you can see two areas denuded of clouds, two big bare areas, and coming down the middle, a long, straight area that's cloud-free. I had a look at satellite images from the same time. This was from the Met Office covering the UK. You can see just across the very west of Wales, that's below centre screen, you can see those two bare patches. To the right of it, stretching across from Wales towards London, you can see a long bare streak. I had a look at another one, a NASA satellite, showing exactly the same. The two bare areas over the sea between Wales and Ireland, and a long bare streak headed towards London. If you tilt them, you can, although it's not a perfect match because they're from totally different directions, you can see that Mage was up there. That proved that Mage really flew. But Mage proved that the satellites were really there as well. The main thing about all these evidences, because if you try and debunk one, okay, let's say you manage to debunk one, you've got to debunk the rest. They are a consistent set of evidences that are non-contradictory. That's the important thing. So all those explanations fit and work together. You need to destroy them all.
What's his name? Felix Baumgartner. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump. Now, you know, I don't. It's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, "Wow, he's in space. Look at that." No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
And I just wanted to finish off. Where is it? What is that? Oh, yes. Sorry. It's a globe. Suck it up, princess.